Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. If it is, hit that subscribe button down below, and while you're down there, hit that like button too, because it helps push this video to a larger audience. Anyway, we're going to get right into today's Fat Electrician video. We got the ghost of World War II, Matt Urban. Let's go.
Everybody knows about Audie Murphy, but nobody knows about this guy who arguably has more military decorations than him.
Well, that's impressive,
Today we're
because Audie Murphy is the story that inspired Captain America.
talking about Matt Urban, aka The Ghost. I know what you're thinking. How do you acquire the nickname The Ghost? I'll give you a hint. It's because he has 7 purple hearts.
You steal a bunch of shit, right? Everything just vanishes in the night, like a ghost.
The man was legitimately unkillable. He was once read his last rites on the battlefield by a priest after the surgeon said that he was for sure going to die. He then proceeded to survive, get shipped off to England, recover in the hospital, where he then escaped from the hospital, made his way back across an ocean, and hitchhiked to the front lines of World War II to rejoin his men. And that is one of the 2 times that he escaped from the hospital to return to his men in frontline combat.
'Tis but a scratch. A
Scratch.
Your arm's
Your arm's
off.
gone.
In addition to his 7 purple
Your
hearts, he
arm's
also
off.
has the Medal of Honor, the Legion of Merit, 2 silver stars, 3 bronze stars
Woo.
with B device, and the French Croix de Guerre. As an infantryman, he has a confirmed kill against an enemy fighter plane. He also has 2 confirmed kills
what?
on enemy tanks.
No. What? I can believe the tanks, but an infantryman killing a fighter? What the fuck was the fighter doing flying low enough that it got shot down by an infantryman in World War II?
that he took out by himself on foot. He once participated in an amphibious landing, which to be fair, doesn't really sound that impressive until I tell you that he didn't do it in a Higgins boat like everybody else. Him and
he
his
just
new buddy Al
swam.
Shellbach made the amphibious landing by themselves inside of a fucking rowboat for reasons that we're going to get into right after a word from our sponsor.
Sleep me.
Hey, she's
Chesty
back
again.
against this one.
Your Mustang armament, Chesty.
Oh yeah, I got something
That
so it's
chesty.
kind of quiet for kids is nap time.
Yeah, where did you get a suppressor? You can't just buy those.
Don't worry about it.
What? No, I have to worry about it. It's like legalities and stuff, Hannah.
It's like legalities and stuff.
It's like that Lil Wayne quote.
Little real G's move in silence like lasagna. You're a housewife. All right, you guys know the online subscription model. You give them money every month. They
And
turn
this
around
one's
and
long
get
enough, so I'm
honest
gonna
and
jump a
they
bit.
like them. It's gonna. If you want to give it a try, I'll have a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video.
There we go.
Okay, here's the deal. This dude has a ton of war stories. We are just gonna.
Is he main character syndrome coded? You know, comes from a fucked up big family, poor, and has all the other quotes, might have bad eyesight, might have another bad part of his body.
Speed run the early life portion of this video. Our story begins on August 25th, 1919, when Matt Urban is born in Buffalo, New York. He is the youngest brother, and all of his brothers are track stars. One of
Youngest
his older
brother,
brothers actually
that works.
goes on to be an
A lot of
Olympic
brothers.
qualifier that competes against Jesse Owens. Other than
Oh.
being track stars, pretty normal childhood. Dad's a plumber, mom's a stay-at-home mom.
All
Grew
right.
up in the 1920s, 1930s. They
Pretty
all have
typical.
the same childhood. We've heard this story 15 times. We're not going to rehash it. Fast forward, Matt Urban goes to Cornell University. He's running on the cross-country
Oh,
team, and he's
he actually
working
went to
5
college
part-time
first.
jobs to pay for tuition. Apparently, he wasn't busy enough, so he decides to go out for the boxing team as well. And due to his outstanding endurance from being a track star and as well as just
He
being
does
a
very
natural
well.
athlete, he excels at boxing. He's able to box equally as good, conventional and southpaw, and he rapidly becomes known as the one-man boxing team because he competes for Cornell at 165 pounds, 175 pounds, and heavyweight. He's so good that to get him to compete at heavyweight, they had to stick lead weights inside of his trunks so that he would make weight. Despite that, he becomes a champion in all 3 weight
Back when you
classes.
could cheat.
His junior year of college, it becomes pretty obvious that America at some point is going to be entering World War II, and he's going to get drafted, so he figures, hell, I'm just
I'll
going to go ahead
enlist
and join
instead.
the ROTC program right now and start training, so that's exactly what he does. He then goes on to graduate college in 1941, immediately gets commissioned as an officer in the United States Army, becoming an infantry officer in the 9th Infantry Division stationed at Fort Bragg. From here, pretty standard
you go.
stuff. He's a platoon leader, training up his infantry guys, getting ready for the war that they know is coming, but Matt's a workaholic, so he also volunteers to be the regiment's morale
Of course he
officer,
does.
where he goes and starts a basketball team and
If
a
he wasn't
boxing
always
team for the
working,
9th
he'd be
Infantry
bored.
Division. And from here, that's what he's doing for months. He's doing infantry training during the day, he's being a boxing coach at night, and this just keeps going on and on and on with no break in sight. And then finally, in December of 1941, he finally gets a weekend pass. So obviously, he goes out to the bar on December 7th, 1941. As soon as he gets in there, he gets halfway through his beer, sitting on a bar stool at the bar, and the radio cuts in with an urgent announcement. The bar
From
gets
the
quiet,
president.
the bartender turns up the radio, and that's when Matt hears that America has been attacked by Japan at Pearl Harbor, crippling our Pacific fleet, killing thousands of Americans. All weekend passes are revoked, and all troops are ordered back to their outfits. From here, obviously, training ramps up as they get ready to go off to war.
Yep.
Fast forward almost
Which, to be fair, raising morale after Pearl Harbor was very fucking easy. Hey, you want to go avenge those folks that the Japs killed? Yeah! Let's all go.
a year of training
Real
later.
simple.
It is October of 1942 when the 60th Infantry Division, including Matt Urban, get told, load up on the boat. And they're like, where are we going? And they're like, get your
Can't
ass
tell
on
ya.
the boat. So they load up on the USS
Not
Florence
telling you that.
Nightingale, and they set sail. Wherever they're going is apparently so secretive that they're not going to tell them until they get there. Now, on one hand, that's great for OPSEC, you know, operational security. You don't want to be telling the whole world where you're going to be going and launching a major attack in World War II. But on the other hand, it's pretty demoralizing for a military, especially one that has a significant amount of people that were drafted and didn't volunteer to be there. The entire notion of get your ass on the boat, we're going to ship you off to war, and we're not even going to tell you where, kind of a
Didn't sound
mentally
great.
draining type of a thing. Because of this, understandably, morale on the USS Florence Nightingale, pretty low. Everybody's kind of in a bad mood. There's this rift happening between the officers and the enlisted. The enlisted guys are coming to resent the officers because we're all going off to war together and you guys aren't telling us what we're actually doing. Fuck you guys. So Matt Urban steps up. He's the morale officer, right? It's his job to keep morale high. He's got to give these guys something to focus on besides the fact that we're going off to war in places unknown. So he heads off to the supply room, grabs some rope and some duct tape. He ends up marking off a 20-foot by 20-foot section right there on the deck of the USS Florence Nightingale and making a boxing ring. He then
Hey, that's a great idea. That's a great way to raise morale. Have all the guys fighting each other.
proceeds to walk away, goes up the stairs. He's standing on the deck on the control tower and just watches and waits. And sure enough, within 15 minutes, a crowd has amassed and people are having boxing matches right there on the deck of the Florence Nightingale. Everybody's laughing, they're gambling, they're having a good time. His plan worked great. This is a humongous
Everybody's
boost to
together.
morale. Then
Everybody's
things
doing
go
great.
a little bit sideways because the next natural progression happens. Everybody wants to know who's the best at boxing. So then it turns into, we're going to have boxing matches, and if you win, you stay inside the boxing ring. They're having 3-round matches. Guys are getting rotated in and out as they win or lose. And then eventually this one guy comes in, one big dude named Al Shellbach. Apparently he was a professional heavyweight boxer. And he proceeds to get in the ring and nobody's able to get him out. He's knocking out absolutely everybody. At which point it turns into everybody's going to pitch in money, and whoever can actually knock Al Shellbach out of the ring is going to get this huge pot of cash. People try, nobody can do it. He knocks out absolutely everybody, and it gets to the point
Our
that
main
he's run
character
out of
is
people
arriving.
volunteering to get in that ring to box him, at which point he starts yelling and boasting. He's pretty upset that he's on this ship, doesn't want to be going off to war, so he starts talking shit to the officers, yelling to the crowd
Getting the
that was
officers
amassed
to
around
do it.
him, saying he wants to fight an officer now. At which point Matt Urban is sitting up on this balcony like, ah, shit, this might have been a bad idea. At which point, Al Shellbach looks up at the balcony, makes direct eye contact with Matt Urban, and then proceeds to say, and I quote, "Hey you, punk lieutenant, yeah, in the peanut gallery, I dare you. Show us how gutless you officers are." Yep, this is a mistake. Matt Urban has just backed himself into a corner because on one hand, this is the 1940s. Officers and enlisted are not supposed to be commingling or intermingling. He can't go down there as a officer and a gentleman and box an enlisted soldier because that would, you know, be against their code of ethics and the
Be
standards,
unprofessional,
blah, 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 blah.
but he's going to do it
on the
anyway.
other hand, if he doesn't do it, just being a man, like
He looks
how
like
are
a
you gonna
pussy
lead
if he
these men
doesn't
into
do it.
combat if you're not willing to go down there and show him that you also know how to fight. So he's got this predicament, and he's like, Fuck it, I'm gonna go down there. He starts walking down.
I'm going down to kick his ass.
Down the stairs, he's taking his top off shirtless, and the crowd is going fucking nuts because Al Shellbach is about to knock out a lieutenant. What they don't know is that Matt Urban is also a heavyweight boxing champion, so they go in there and have this 3-round fight, and they beat the shit out of each other the entire time, but nobody gets knocked out.
Nobody goes down.
And it gets ruled a draw. At which point, Al Shellbach gives him a big hug. They raise each other's hands, tells him he's not like all the other officers. He is now a hero among all of the enlisted men, and him and Al
looks
Shellbach
great.
just became homies forever.
They became best friends.
In the garage? Yup.
So this actually turned out pretty all right. Turned out pretty awesome. And then reality kicks in because the commanding officer yells down from the balcony that Urban needs to get his ass up here. Urban goes up there, then proceeds to get his ass chewed for boxing enlisted men, you know, because that's not gentlemanly. He then proceeds to
Move
put
on.
both Urban
Whatever.
and Shellbach on kitchen duty together for the rest of their trip. So
Well, they're
peeling
enjoying
potatoes
that.
together, cooking food for the next couple of weeks.
You know they were just talking shit in that kitchen for months. Well, they were chilling on that boat.
Just hanging out pretty much all day. They become
Or
even
weeks,
better
however long
buddies.
they were
And
there.
then about
They were
2-3
just talking
weeks in,
shit,
early November, they
getting
have an
along.
officers meeting. Al Shellbach sneaks in with Urban, not a big deal. And they're sitting in this meeting and they basically break it down like, okay, we're off the coast of North Africa. This is Operation Torch. This is America's
the
main
North
invasion
African
into North Africa.
operation.
And the 9th Infantry Division is tasked with taking over Port Lyautey, which is being guarded by a old French fort known as Casaba. They need to make a landing on the beach and go take that fort to take over this port. And if that wasn't hard enough, that fort is occupied by the French Foreign Legion, and I know what you're thinking, isn't France on America's side? Kind of sort of
Not at this
really
point.
at this point, because the French Foreign Legion has taken orders from Vichy France, which is occupied by the Germans, so the Americans are going to be fighting the French, and the French Foreign Legion at this point, and really at all points, including modern time, it's kind of a legendary military unit.
Let's just start with the French Foreign Legion.
Yeah, you've got the French Foreign Legion on one side, and you've got France on the other, where this side's going to surrender every single time, and this side's like the United States Marines, and they're just going to kill shit.
They are tough, they are hard, and they are willing to die rather than surrender.
And Matt Urban's platoon is slotted in the first wave to hit the beach. Matt Urban's heart jumps. He's absolutely pumped. And as soon as he gets that adrenaline hit, the commanding officer looks at Matt Urban and says, but not you, because you're the morale officer. Remember, we're going to need you for after the battle to boost everybody's morale.
And
You're
he
keeping
said,
your ass
fuck
right
no,
here on the
I'm
ship,
going.
And so's your potato peeling buddy. At which point, Urban and Shellbach look at each other and telepathically communicate, that's not fucking happening.
No, I understand that. You're being very serious right now.
I'm winking with my left eye?
That night, Shellbach and Urban go. They get a life raft. They get their guns. They get
I'm
ammo,
using
they
my
get
left
grenades, they
eye?
get everything they need to go off to battle. They get them in the life raft, throw it over the side of the ship, tie it off, get a rope ready to rappel down. They are going to go join this battle by themselves if they have to. The next morning, Operation Torch gets underway. They initiate the amphibious landing. The Higgins boats are making their way towards the beach, and right out of the gate, it is an enormous shit show. The enemy is somehow using artillery accurately, very accurately, too accurately for what is supposed to be happening. And the casualty reports just keep coming in, and they are horrific.
bad.
At which point,
They are
Urban
not
and
great.
Shellbach look at each other, they nod, they slip out, and they start lowering themselves down into this life raft. They get into this life raft.
They know they
start
need to
rolling
help.
their asses off. The commanding officer runs down to the deck and is screaming at Matt Urban, where the fuck are you going? Get your ass back here. And Matt Urban's just like, nope.
Fuck no.
And they just keep rolling right into the gunfire and artillery fire and explosions headed towards the beach. The closer they get to the beach, the more horrific a sight they see. There's
And I bet you that commander was fucking mad watching them row away towards the bombarded area.
just more and
Like,
more
"Ah,
dead bodies
shit, he's
floating
gonna
in the water."
die.
There's guys that drowned because the Higgins boats opened their doors too soon and they went in with full kit and didn't make it. There's guys that have been shot, blown up. It's horrific. They managed to rescue a couple of guys that were stranded out in the water, and while this is happening, unbeknownst to them,
Yeah, this is a time of warfare before you could just, heavily bombard the area you're about to go on and then walk into just, oh, there's a bunch of dead bodies all over. Huh, hey, that one's still moving. Bang! Nowadays, we would just, send a volley of Tomahawk cruise missiles, bombard the whole beachhead, and then walk in like nothing happened.
the Americans had figured out why the artillery fire was so accurate, and it's because Vichy French had a bunch of guys up inside of a lighthouse overlooking the beach and were using that as a vantage point to call in accurate artillery fire. Fortunately for Matt Urban, and unfortunately for everybody in that lighthouse, once the Americans figured out that that's where the forward observers are, they radioed over to the most gangster battleship of all time, the USS Texas, which was also right there,
the
and
Texas.
told them to delete that fucking lighthouse, which they did. Okay, that's life. 1 second you're French, you're fancy, you're in a lighthouse, you're eating a baguette with your
And you're calling in artillery on Americans?
homies, it's romantic, you're calling in artillery fire on the invading American swine, and then the USS Texas just starts lobbing 1,500-pound freedom suppositories at your structure, and then you wake up dead.
How the hell do you wake up dead? Because you're alive when you go to sleep.
Matt finally makes it to the beach. All the men have already advanced like 100 yards further. He's running.
By the way, if you were wondering, here is the battleship Texas. Where, this thing was built in 1917 during the height of World War I. And, yeah, they retrofitted it. They gave it much bigger guns. They upgraded everything they physically could. And sent her back out during World War II, where she not only fought and served there, but came back to port. Excuse me. Came back to port, and I believe nowadays it's just a museum warship that you can see. I'm pretty sure that's what it is today.
Trying to catch up to him. He's dodging gunfire. There's bullets whizzing past him. He gets about halfway there and he sees that there's some private laying down inside of a crater, huddled up, not knowing what the fuck to do. He dives into this crater. This kid's freaked out, doesn't know what the fuck to do. He's having a panic attack. It's Private First Class Grabski. It's a kid from his platoon. He grabs him, get the fuck up and let's go, and they continue to advance towards the objective. He almost makes it to the spot where the men are pinned down in front of him, and then a humongous artillery explosion happens right in front of him where those men were. He dives to the ground with the private, and rolling up next to him comes a human head. Worse than that, it's an American human head, and it's
probably one he recognized.
A human head of somebody that he recognizes. Lieutenant Goodwin, one of the other lieutenants from one of the other platoons in the 60th Infantry Regiment. And for a brief moment, Matt Urban gets extremely upset, and that rapidly turns into anger and adrenaline, at which point he stands to his feet with zero regard for himself and rushes towards the enemy bunker that is pinning down the men in front of him.
Because he's pissed off as fuck.
He hurtles over his men hiding for cover straight towards this bunker, and before they can shoot him down, he throws a grenade into this pillbox, blows it up, and then clears it with his rifle. And as the men behind him start to stand up, realizing, oh shit, we're rushing the position.
Oh shit, that's a badass, and he's on our side. Hell yeah.
He immediately advances to the next pillbox and clears it as well, completely by himself. Seeing this, the rest of the men jump into action, and the
realizing how tough they actually are.
All of the pillboxes and trenches surrounding this French fort Casaba. Now the Americans basically have this fort surrounded. There's no way that they can break in. They don't have tanks. They don't have any heavy artillery yet. All they have is small arms and grenades, and this French fort has these massive doors, humongous thick stone walls. They have no way to break in there to fight them. And from here, it turns into like a pitched siege warfare for the next 3 days. The French will open the doors, try to launch a counterattack. The Americans mow them down, and they're just kind of stuck there waiting for one side to give up. And in between these counterattacks,
send wave, kill, get killed, repeat.
And by the end of the first day, Matt Urban remembers sitting down inside of a trench watching the sunset, thinking to himself, this place is beautiful. This is not somewhere where you're supposed to be fighting a war. Next day, same thing, pitched battle. There's counterattacks here and there, but between there's just hours of these huge lulls where everybody's kind of sitting around, eating food,
trying
doing
not to
nothing.
Get blown
Eventually,
up.
the French launch a massive counterattack as the doors to the fortress open and 3 French tanks roll out and immediately get blown up with bazookas. They immediately shut the doors again, and now everybody's just kind of sitting there in a lull. By the third day, they're having logistical issues. They're not getting enough food and water to the front to feed the men. Everybody's getting hungry. They're getting thirsty. They want to end this shit, and they want to end it now. And there's not really a great tactful way to go about that, so they're going to rely on good old-fashioned brute force and ignorance to get it done.
It's good
old-fashioned
blunt force trauma. Yeah. Let's start building some hurting bombs.
They grab all the bazookas and bazooka shells that they have. They send a group around to the rear gate. They're at the front gate, and they coordinate a time, and they just start shooting fucking bazookas at the gates until they break them off their fucking hinges and swarm the entire fort.
There you go. All problem solved.
Matt Urban and the 9th Infantry Division's next battle takes place in Tunisia, where Erwin Rommel, the legendary German tank commander, and his famed Panzer Division, supposedly the best, most experienced military unit on the planet at this point in time, are charging towards Allied forces. The best place to do that is going to be in a 2-mile gap in the Atlas mountain chain known as the Kasserine Pass. If they can hold him in this 2-mile gap in this narrow choke point, they might be able to stop him. The problem is the 9th Infantry Division is over 700 miles away, and Erwin Rommel is beelining it straight towards them. So in a hurry, they pack their shit up. 411 vehicles and artillery pieces and 2,000 men travel 777 miles in 3 days. Woo! 777 miles isn't that far to travel in 3 days, but yeah, if we're talking about you hopping on the interstate in your car, sure, but this isn't what we're talking about. We're talking about being in the desert of North Africa. There's no gas stations. They got to bring all their own
there's
food,
not really roads either.
Figure out how to get enough gas. They got to figure out how to move 2,000 dudes with 400 vehicles, 777 miles through the desert of North Africa in 3 days. Okay, yes, it's impressive. They are traveling all day and all night for 3 days straight, and they make it to Kasserine Pass before Rommel and his division. Matt Urban and the 60th Infantry Regiment are held up at a smaller pass within the Kasserine Pass known as McNassie Pass, and it is just wide enough for a single tank to get through. Literally one road with cliffs on either side. They get their 155mm howitzer.
Now imagine if we had air dominance and air superiority during that battle like we do today. Imagine you're an American A-10 pilot, and you see this line of tanks, single file, about to head right into this narrow choke point canyon. You're gonna be doing a loop, lining yourself up right along it, going in and just, or as everybody wants to hear, right along the whole path, destroying every vehicle in the formation. And then you're going to fly away without a fucking scratch.
Howitzers leveled in a crossfire right at the pass, and as soon as a German Panzer tank comes rolling through, they blow that thing up. They blow the tank up right behind it, completely blocking the pass. Now nothing can get through. Then there's kind of a lull in the battle.
Awesome.
Matt Urban's up at a vantage point with binoculars trying to see what's going on, and after a couple of hours, he sees what appears to be a sandstorm approaching his direction.
Oh,
from where the
wonderful.
Nazis are. As it gets closer, he realizes that's not a sandstorm. The Nazis are bringing in their heavy artillery, 240 millimeter cannons. At which
Wonderful.
point, Urban's artillery guy informs him those guns have like twice the range of anything we've got. They're going to be able to hit us way before we're going to be able to hit them. Now some of the men are kind of shitting themselves because this is
the part where you're like, do we have any planes in the area? Anything that can drop something on their heads?
for all intents and
Please.
purposes, the first big clash between the Nazis and the American forces. And it's Erwin Rommel's famous Panzer Division. The Germans have better machine guns that don't jam. Their grenades are more dangerous. Their tanks are better. Their artillery's better. It's not looking good. Despite that, Matt Urban tells his guys to calm down, dig in. We're fighting them right here. And
Calm down, boys. Change your pants. We'll be all right. We're going to fight them here, and we're going to win.
within the hour, they start getting hit by German heavy artillery. They weather the storm. The Germans launch an attack. They repel the attack. They start hammering them with artillery again. The Germans launch another attack. They repel the attack. And this goes on for the next 72 hours.
Woo!
Matt Urban
3
said
whole
there wasn't
days.
A single second over the course of the next 3 days where there wasn't a shell inbound, and he was legitimately concerned that he or one of his men was going to suffocate from all of the dust that was being kicked up.
Oh, yeah,
They
that
couldn't
makes
see
sense.
shit. Despite that, they held the pass for 72 hours straight, and then it just stopped. Eerie silence and just the ringing of the tinnitus that they all now have. Matt Urban climbs up to
Yeah.
a vantage point with
By the way, your hearing damage is not service-related, fellas. Sorry.
his binoculars and sees the Germans are retreating. Rommel
Oh.
has exhausted his ammunition and supplies, and
he's
is
out of
forced to
ammo.
retreat. Okay, it's been like 3 straight days. The boys were hungry, they're tired, so Matt picks out a couple of people to set up guard and watch, and everybody else is just supposed to grab some food, eat, and take a nap. Matt Urban gets that going. He finally goes, gets some food for himself, sits down, starts opening up a can of sea rations, when one of the guards comes running up that there's a raiding party headed their direction from behind.
Oh, wonderful.
Son of a bitch.
Okay, now he's pissed. At this point, the Germans are just trying to starve him to death before they can actually shoot him. He grabs a rifle platoon, heads off to investigate. He gets over to where the supposed German raiding party is, and what he finds is a bunch of dudes in robes with Aladdin swords and like old World War I rifles looting one of his supply drops. His rifle platoon immediately opens fire, shooting some of them. The rest scatter off into the tall grass. They all disappear. Matt orders his men not to pursue them. They're clearly not a legitimate threat. It's turning into a long day.
They're
got
just
the
an
Germans trying to
annoyance.
kill him over here. The Tuscan Raiders are behind him trying to steal all of the
The
shit.
Tuscan
He
Raiders.
just wants to eat his food. He goes back, he eats some food. A couple hours later, he gets woken up by a guard again. Sir, there's a civilian approaching from behind us. And Matt's like, oh,
Civilian?
okay,
What?
fine. He goes out,
Who?
he meets with the civilian. It's somebody that can kind of speak broken English. Basically, the village that the people that just raided his supply depot are from, some of them got shot and they want medical aid. Okay, and just like so we're all on the same page. In
Fair
World War
enough.
II, this is not a normal thing. This is not like Iraq, Afghanistan, where we're an occupying force. We're trying to win over hearts and mind and go hand out the kids candy and medical aid and all kinds of shit. Like, this is not a
Yeah, this is World War II, where the mind perspective against you versus your enemy, you both are like, all right, every single combatant on the other side, every single person, if you are a German, you are a Nazi, you are helping the war effort, you are a target in your country. You're Japanese, you're helping the war effort, you're a target in your country. You're an American, you're helping the war effort, you're a target in your country. Every country, everybody was helping, everything was doing everything. Like, remember, America, we changed a bunch of our factories here to make military weapons, artillery shells, planes, tanks. Like, the Ford company built a plant that was pumping out one bomber every, like, hour or so for a good long while. They were daily. Here's 24 new bombers. Here's another 24. Just every single day shipping out 24 bombers. And yeah, like that's how it was. If you were a combatant in the country that you were going, if you were part of the military going into a country and there are civilians there, they probably were helping the war effort, and you might be ordered to target them. That's just how it was back then.
Standard thing to have happen. Which is why none of Matt Urban's guys want to do this, because they think it's a trap, because obvious. Despite that, Matt Urban decides they're going to go do it. So he grabs some medics, grabs a rifle platoon, they head off to this village, and they patch up everybody that they can that got shot. Get that done, head back to the pass where their base is, and they're there for about an hour, and then the guard comes running up again. So
what does he want this
civilian
time?
Approaching. They go out there, and it is just this one singular Jeep hauling ass straight towards them. Matt grabs a bunch of guys with guns, tells them to hide in the tall grass, be ready for anything. He's got 2 guards with him. He's standing in the middle of the road as this Jeep comes screaming up. As it approaches, he sees what appears to be like a sultan, like a king. The dude's got all the fancy robes on. He's got this big ass gold chain with a massive gold
North
pendant,
Africa, remember?
And the Jeep rolls up and stops, and in broken English asks who's in charge. At this point, Matt's thinking, okay, this is somebody important. This is like the king or something, and I've just committed an international incident. So he's like, I'm in charge, sir. Lieutenant Urban. The Sultan dude then gets this big enormous smile showing off his gold teeth and says, and I quote, "Thank you, you killed a bad man. Thieves no good." The Jeep then does a big U-turn and drives off the other direction where they came from. All of his guys come out of the tall grass, laughing and joking, imitating
just like,
the Sultan
what?
dude. And Matt Urban's just standing there like, what the fuck is happening right now? This is the weirdest day ever. I'm going to bed.
Literally, he's like, I'm done with today. I just need to rest and pretend this was all a dream.
Matt Urban and the rest of the 9th Infantry Division are headed further into Tunisia, and while they're making their way there, they come across a clan of Gomieres. Now, Gomieres, from what I understand, is Arabic for the phrase irregular soldier. Basically, they're badass guerrilla fighters that are very reminiscent of Gurkhas. They're known for carrying big-ass scary blades, and they're known for having the same
like
exact
blades, they like knives.
That if they draw their blade, they have to draw blood, so if there's no enemy to kill, they'll cut their finger because it's just like part of the superstition.
Okay,
every time you draw your weapon, it has to draw blood.
Sure.
They're Moroccans that are working for the French and usually only carry blades into combat. And the Germans are kind of terrified of them because they're renowned for sneaking into German camps at night, slitting a bunch of people's throats, and overall just committing a bunch of heinous war crimes.
They were stark, raving, mad, crazy, nuts. Didn't have no guns, but boy, they had the knives. And when they first went in, they paid them by the ear.
2 cents an ear.
But hey, they're on our side, so
go kill a bunch of people, 4 cents per person. Doesn't sound like a lot, but back then. All right.
Matt Urban wants to go say hi. He figures they've been operating in this
collect
area,
a bunch of ears.
Something that he
maybe
doesn't.
collect
so he
some
goes
noses.
Up to him, finds one that kind of speaks broken English, and just kind of asks him like, Germans? And the guy just like frantically nods his head yes, and he goes, where? How many? And the guy just says, come.
Hey, Jim.
Not now.
The cum joke.
Jesus, get the hell out of here, idiot.
And he takes off. So Matt Urban follows him by himself. And Matt Urban is struggling to keep up, which is impressive because Matt Urban is a track star.
Yeah, he's a track star. I was going to say that.
Through this
dude took track.
Terrain without making a single sound. And this goes on for miles. And then finally the Goumier just stops. And Matt Urban's like, catches up to the guy and he's like, what's going on? And the guy just points, and off in the distance, there's a 8x12 cement building. In the middle
bunker.
Of the and Matt Urban is like, what the fuck is that? And turns around to talk to the Gommier, and the guy's just gone.
He just
Matt Urban
ran toward the bunker.
This cement building out in the middle of nowhere, and he just like kind of watches it for a little while, and then he sees that there's German patrols guarding it, so obviously it's something important. He better go investigate. So he starts low crawling, moving as little as possible, excruciatingly slow, covering ground. And as he gets closer and closer, he starts seeing all kinds of wires running into this cement building. And that's when he realizes, oh shit, this is Rommel's entire division's communications hub. He's working his way closer and closer to the building. And
taking that out is great.
Starting to go down, and the Germans that are on patrol all sit down and start eating their dinner. This is his chance. He sneaks up to the cement enclosure, pulls a pin on his grenade, opens the door, throws it inside, shuts the door, grenade explodes, pops back inside the door, shoots both the radio operators with his Colt 45, then throws another grenade right at the radio equipment and takes off fucking running. The Germans start chasing him. They're shooting at him. One of them throws one of their big-ass stick grenades near enough to him to knock him off of his feet, takes shrapnel in his right hand, hops back up, and keeps sprinting, says it's the fastest he's ever run in his entire life. Makes it to...
He had good motivation to run in this circumstance. I'll give it to him.
Within 100 yards of his own lines, and then his own guys start shooting at him with machine guns. He runs and dives into a depression and like has a white handkerchief and is like waving it over the top. And one of the guys that's shooting at him is like, "Who goes there?" And he's like, "It's Urban. Stop fucking shooting at me." So he makes it back to his lines, reports
Who
to his
goes
captain,
there?
explains to the captain what happened, and the captain is like, I don't know whether to court-martial you or give you a medal. The war is hard enough without you showing off constantly. You're
The captain's just like, "Buddy, you did what now?" Okay. Kinda, get out of my tent.
fucking taking rowboats into amphibious landings. You're running off with Moroccan assassins to take out Rommel's communications center by yourself. We're not going to talk about this. Go to the med tent.
Hey, buddy, we're going to give you a new title. You're going to be called Special Operations, where we don't really tell you what to do. You just go and make hell for the enemy now.
Get your hand fixed.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Urban and his guys continue further into Tunisia, heading north, and the terrain kind of shifts. It goes from, being a desert to being this, like, arid middle ground, and then it turns into this dense, arid forest type shit. It's just thick, dry brush everywhere. And in this new terrain, they come up to a mountain with a German stronghold on top that apparently has been fighting back the British for months. It's a steep terrain. There's brush everywhere. They've got machine gun emplacements up top inside of these stone bunkers. It's impenetrable.
I've heard that before.
But hey, somebody's got to go up there and take it out. And the chain of command at the 9th Infantry Division is like, I've got just the guy. Matt Urban, you want to show off? Go get him. Matt Urban grabs his platoon and he decides that he's going to attack where the enemy's going to expect it the least. He's going to shuttle his men single file up the steepest part of this mountain. Matt Urban leads his platoon through all of this thick brush.
And I bet you everybody you went with was like, "You're crazy. Let's go."
Single file, gets everybody as close as possible before the jungle starts to clear out. And once they get as close as that point, they have this stopping point. They downgrade all their equipment. They get rid of their canteens. They drop their packs.
Lightning,
fix bayonets
so they can
on their
go quicker.
rifles, and they start grabbing dirt, smearing it on their face. They're about to have a raiding party. They start creeping up closer and closer on the German position. And when they get within eyesight, Matt Urban realizes they have no idea that they're coming. The Germans are all just sitting around goofing off. Perfect. They continue to
even
creep
better.
forward. They get
The
right
best
up
scenario.
to this waist-high stone wall surrounding this little encampment of Germans in their fortified position, and Matt Urban pulls out his Colt 45 in one hand and a flare gun in the other.
Time to make the chimmy fucking chongas.
Yeah. This is one of those parties where you approach and you see everybody just chilling, goofing off. But what kind of soldier would you be in war? Would you be the soldier who joins with the group, goofs off, or would you be that one loner who's like always on edge, always ready for a fight, always waiting for it, always ready, and you're just like so tense all the time that when everybody's so calm, you're more on edge than ever because you now have to pick up the edge for everybody else who's let theirs down.
Matt Urban pops up, shoots a flare directly into the machine gun emplacement that would open fire on his men, then reloads, shoots another flare into that machine gun emplacement, hops the wall with all of his men, and they charge. The Germans are caught completely off guard and have to retreat from their positions. They run, they occupy the bunkers with the machine guns, they turn the guns around and open fire on the fleeing Germans as they see off in the distance that the Germans have some captured Allied POWs that they begin executing. They then proceed to go
that's not
those
great.
Germans and line them up to return the favor. The Nazi officer is then screaming, "You can't do this. It's against the Geneva Treaty." At which point,
the Geneva what now? We don't care. This is a battle. Click.
he's basically told, "So was what you just did. I
Yeah.
don't give a shit." They line the Germans up, point guns
Pretty
at him,
much.
and his men are just waiting for Matt to give the order. They want him to do it. Like, dude, give me the order. This is bullshit.
Tell me
They
to
just
do
killed
it.
a bunch
Tell
of
me
our
to do it.
guys.
Tell me to
Let's
do it.
return the favor. And Matt, he can't do it. They finish taking the position and escort the German prisoners back to headquarters.
Should have killed him. But he's a better man than
After
me,
this,
I
they
guess.
continue to advance further into Tunisia, and what's going on at this point during the campaign is the Allied forces have basically taken over the entire country, but the Germans are still held out on top of like hills and mountains in these super strong fortified positions, and the Allied forces have just kind of gone around them for now. They've taken over the whole country, and now it's time to double back and...
Well, we had this is at a time before we had bunker busters, so we couldn't really just shock and awe them. We made sure after this fight that we could do that.
Clear them out. And Matt Urban's battalion has been tasked with going and taking out a fortified German position known as Hill 409. So Matt Urban's unit, the 2nd Battalion of the 60th Infantry Regiment of the 9th Infantry Division, makes their way to Hill 409. Once they get fairly close, Matt Urban orders the rest of his men to rest. He grabs a couple of his best guys and he goes up on a scouting mission to assess the situation. They get up there close enough and Matt Urban realizes that there's an entire German regiment on top of Hill 409, which is about 2 to 3 times bigger than a battalion. Just so we're all on the same page and we know what that means, they are outnumbered at least 2 to 1. They'll be fighting uphill into fortified machine gun positions.
Not great.
Not looking that great, but all...
Remember, as Obi-Wan said, it's over, Anakin, I have the high ground. And, yeah, in this case, high ground advantage with guns actually makes a difference.
Also, Matt Urban's the main character, and he's got plot armor, so we're gonna fucking run it. But he's gonna need a pretty good plan, so he stays there just watching what the Germans are up to, and he notices right around lunchtime at noon, all of the Germans leave their fortified machine gun positions, eat lunch, and then after lunch, a new group of Germans switch out, and they go occupy the machine gun positions. That's the plan. They're going to rush those fortified machine gun positions right when they are unoccupied by the Germans,
right
then
when
they're
they're
gonna spin them around and use their own fortifications against them and take the hill. And the very next day, that's exactly what happens. They mow down some of the Germans with their own machine guns, but the vast majority of them retreat and escape. And that's it. Main character, good plan, makes for an easy day for a minute, because about 15 minutes later, the Germans launched a massive counterattack, and now
they want their shit back.
battalion is in this German fortified position, and they are now surrounded by a force 2 to 3 times larger than them, and they're fucking stuck with no way to get more supplies.
But at least they have high ground advantage, fortified position. So, if anything, at least they're in the best case scenario.
Managed to repel the first German counterattack, but like I said, they're still stuck. So they just kind of hang out there, and they repel another counterattack. And then night comes, and they repel another counterattack. And then the second day, they repel multiple more German counterattacks, and they're running out of food, water, and ammunition.
But so are the Germans at this point. If they're, launching and launching and launching and launching, every time they lose men, they lose ammo, they lose weapons. And yeah, that means there's more food for everybody else back if they retreat, but you kind of don't want to be the Germans who have to retreat and come back home, because that's kind of demoralizing.
At the end of the second day, things are not looking good. They are going to run out of ammo and all their other supplies. They're going to get overrun. Luckily, on the morning of the third day, they managed to get a bunch of supplies airdropped in right on top of the hill.
Well, that's great.
That manages to keep them in the fight. They fight the entire third day. On the morning of the fourth day, Matt Urban is woken up right at dawn as the sun is starting to illuminate the battlefield to all of his men running past him, retreating. Matt Urban comes to his feet like, what the fuck is going on? Starts yelling at his dudes to hold their position, and then off in the distance, he hears in perfect English somebody yelling for retreat, so he takes off that direction. It's early morning, it's barely light out, it's super foggy up on this hill. He can barely see 6 feet in front of him. And he's just following the sound of this voice in perfect English yelling, retreat, we're being overrun. As he closes in on this voice calling for retreat, somehow in the fog, he had circled around behind this guy, and as he gets closer, he sees that it's a German uniform yelling in perfect English, ordering people to retreat, tricking the Americans.
I'm sorry.
Well, he's going to end him immediately.
Matt Urban runs up behind this guy, pulls out his trench knife, stabs him in the neck to shut him up immediately, and thinking fast, I don't know if it was luck or if he actually did this on purpose, but he grabs the German's burp gun and shoots the 2 guys that were with him. And the reason that this is genius is because it totally saves him and his men, because by using the German gun, which sounds significantly different than the American
sounds like the German gun.
The Germans know that, the Americans know that. It gives all of the Americans warning of like, hey, here's where the Germans are. They're coming from this direction. In addition to that, all the German forces behind him now think that he's German, so they're not going to open fire on him.
And he's shooting,
as an
beyond
entire
them.
German rifle squad comes running through the fog towards him, thinking that their buddy needs backup, and he turns the burp gun back around and lights them up.
Mows them all down.
Then runs back to his guys through the fog, gets everybody back into their fighting positions as they repel the Germans' last all-out counterattack, where they threw everything they had at the Americans. But because of Matt Urban's actions, they managed managed to hold out, and after that one single counterattack, they counted 116 dead Nazis on the hill. That was it. The Germans continued retreating. They were gone. The hill is secured. For this battle, Matt Urban's battalion would receive a Distinguished Unit Citation, which is a huge deal. And shortly after that, the Tunisia campaign would come to an end, with Axis forces surrendering in the area on May 13th, 1943.
The Ghost of
From here,
Sicily.
Matt Urban and his guys get some R&R. Then they're told to board a boat to places unknown. Yet again, they make their way there. They end up off the coast of Sicily, off the city of Palermo. While there, his ship gets attacked by German Stuka dive bombers, and the first pass ends up killing a guy on the anti-aircraft gun that is closest.
Oh, so he hops on the
Matt Urban
anti-aircraft
runs over,
gun.
mans the anti-aircraft gun, and shoots down the next Stuka dive bomber.
That would be how he
tries to make
did
a
it.
pass at him. And then the attack's over, and he just goes about his business, just complete
Oh,
main
no,
character
he didn't
energy
take out
like
that
it was no
fighter.
big deal.
What a day.
That's not the one. When do
The
we
next
get the part
morning,
where he
they
took
depart
out a
the ship,
fighter?
And they are essentially told, the enemy's that way. Go get them until you hit the ocean, and we've taken over the entire island. No tanks, no vehicles,
Okay.
no nothing. Just walk your
Fair
happy ass
enough.
from one end of the island to the other and kill all the bad guys that you find. So they take off road marching. Matt Urban is at the front of his battalion with all of his men walking behind him on the road. Obviously, they're doing most of their road marching like early in the morning and kind of later in the day to avoid the heat, and that's when it gets kind of cold. So at some point, Matt Urban takes to having a wool blanket. He throws that over his helmet, over his shoulders like a cloak, and he's just leading his troops into battle, and the men start to joke that the entire 9th Infantry Division is being led by a ghost. And this is where the nickname Matt Urban, the Ghost, first originates. Matt Urban and the 9th Infantry Division
I was
fought
thinking
the
it came
French,
from
they
his
fought
enemies.
the Germans, and now they're fighting the Italians. Or at least they're trying to, because the Italians at this point in the war, they're not very well trained, they're not very well equipped, and they do not have very high
What? No way! The Italians weren't ready? What? Ah, they weren't ready for World War II. Maybe they shouldn't have started it with some guy.
morale. So as soon as they see the Americans coming, every time they approach a village that has enemy soldiers in it, by the time they actually reach the village, the enemy soldiers have already packed their shit up and retreated. And this happens pretty much the entire time they're in Sicily. They walk
So yeah,
from
all they
sea
have to do
shining
is
sea and
walk
see
through.
almost no combat. After that, they're told to board a boat. They get shipped off to England to prepare for D-Day.
Ah, the best day ever. The total best day on the planet. Everybody was so happy for D-Day. The smiles all around.
Once they get over to England, there's a lot of R&R going on, there's a lot of training going on, but Matt Urban in particular resumes his role as the morale officer and is told to organize a massive morale boxing event for the entire 7th Corps of the Army.
Oh, well,
They
that
want it
shouldn't
to
be
a
too
big
hard.
deal. They've got Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, the world heavyweight boxing champion coming through. He's going to be willing to box some of the soldiers. It's just supposed to be a big morale event. So he resumes his role as a boxing trainer. He's getting some dudes trained up, and then at night, he's going out on the town having a good time. One night, he goes out to a circus and he meets an attractive woman that he describes as a shapely brunette. Her name is Marie Brown,
and then he'll
later
marry
find
her.
out that she had won Miss England a couple years prior. They drink and
Oh,
hang out all
fun.
night, and as the night comes to an end, Matt Urban decides to be a gentleman and make sure that she gets home okay, which he agreed to before he realizes that it was a 20-mile train ride to a different town. But he goes anyway.
Okay.
All the way home
He
to
wa-
front
he
doorstep,
really made
gives
sure
her a
she
kiss,
got in.
And then turns around to leave, at which point Miss England tells him that was the last train for the night. There's not going to be another one till the
She did that on purpose.
morning. You're going to have to stay here. Darn it.
Darn
At this point,
it.
His hopes aren't very high. He's thinking he's going to be sleeping on the couch, which is fine. No big deal. She walks him upstairs to the guest bedroom, which is extremely nice in this very nice house. And he takes a bath, goes, lays down, and it's like the peak of luxury. Dude's been sleeping out in the fields in Africa and in
Dude's
Sicily.
got
He
a
just got to
great
have a
night.
bath, and now he's sleeping
And-
in an actual bed. This is fantastic. Right as he's about to go asleep, Miss England comes and gets in bed with him. In Matt Urban's own words, and I quote, "I was a perfect gentleman, and each person will have to interpret that for themselves." All right, fine. I'll
Fine.
interpret it.
Fine, buddy.
The next morning, Matt Urban wakes up to a knock on the door. He's
Interpreted.
starts getting his clothes on like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. It's an angry husband. It's an angry father with a shotgun. Whatever's on the other side of that door is not good. He runs over to the window, fully prepared to jump out of a second-story building. Another gorgeous woman walks through the door, and he's like,
okay.
okay, it's her sister. It's cool.
It's her
Everything's fine.
sister.
And then Miss England on the bed says, "Good morning, Mom." He opens the
Oh.
window and starts putting one
Mom.
leg out, getting ready to jump. And they look at him like he's crazy, and he now realizes that Mom has just brought them breakfast in bed. So from here,
And he's realized, oh, Mom doesn't care as much we're probably
He
okay.
finishes breakfast, heads back to base, and continues training boxing and getting ready for this big boxing event. Now, the cool part about this boxing event, at least to me, is that it's for 7th Corps, and another member of 7th Corps is Lafayette Poole, aka War Daddy, the greatest American tanker.
Oh, I remember when he did that
The
one.
movie Fury is based on. I've already done a full video on him, and in that video, I talk about how when he was in England, right around this time period, he had a boxing match with Joe Louis, aka the Brown Bomber, the world heavyweight champ. Now, I can't tell you with absolute 100% certainty, there could have been multiple events, but I think it's pretty likely that Matt Urban actually scheduled and organized the event where Lafayette Poole, War Daddy, boxed Joe Louis. Which honestly has nothing to do with
pretty
the
cool.
overall story, but it is really cool to see my videos overlap, and just the idea that Matt Urban at some point was coaching Lafayette Poole at boxing is...
And hey, Nick didn't say it, but if you haven't seen his video on War Daddy, go check that one out after this, because it is a fantastic video that I'm sure you will all enjoy.
Just
Nick
awesome.
didn't say it because he's too prideful.
After the boxing morale event, they start training for an amphibious landing. Matt gets promoted to captain. He also gets caught up on awards. He gets awarded a Silver Star, Bronze Star with V device, Purple Hearts, all kinds
He
of stuff.
doesn't care,
From there,
though.
they get packed up and shipped off to Normandy, where they make their landing on Utah Beach. Just so we're on the same page, this is not like D-Day. They were not the initial wave of the attack on Normandy. That was on June 6th. They hit Utah Beach on June 11th, 5 days later. So by the time they hit Utah Beach, it's clear the fighting has moved further inland. They land on Utah Beach, and they actually have to follow like roped off sections where they've cleared small pathways through minefields and German objectives.
Yeah.
From here, they make their way into hedgerow country. They get to the front lines,
It's that
and they
time
start
of war.
clearing fields, hedgerow after hedgerow, and eventually they come up against German resistance, and these Germans have 2 Panzer tanks, and they don't have any tanks.
That's not good.
Despite that, Matt Urban and
But
these guys
hopefully,
dig in and start fighting. They're
we have
picking off the
bazookas.
German infantry that's trying to use the tanks as cover, but the machine guns on top of the German tanks are wreaking havoc on his men. As the battle rages on, his men are starting to take casualties, and Matt Urban remembers he's the main character, and if anybody's going to do some gangster shit, it's going to have to be him. At which point, he goes to his men, grabs a bazooka, runs into enemy machine gun fire, and fires the bazooka at one of the tanks, scoring a direct hit, knocking it out. He then reloads the bazooka and fires it at the second tank, scoring another direct hit, knocking out 2 German Panzer tanks by himself in a matter of like a minute. And as soon as that second tank is hit, German reinforcements arrive with another Panzer tank.
Oh,
that
so is he
drives
gonna
through
reload?
the hedgerows, and it starts opening fire on Matt Urban's men again. So he starts reloading his bazooka as the German turret is moving towards him, and it stops right at him. Matt Urban has enough time to think in his head, oh shit, as he goes to throw the bazooka down to take cover, and before he can even let go of the bazooka, the gun fires, the round impacts immediately directly in front of his feet as he is yeeted into the hedgerow behind him. He comes to in the hedgerow right where he landed with medics working on him. He has a massive chunk of his calf missing as the medics are about to administer morphine, and they're trying to get other people to litter bear him back to the ship.
Here's your ninepence. I'm not dead.
Yeah. He says he's not dead.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he
Matt
is.
Urban then orders the medics to not give him morphine and just throw a tourniquet
Because
on it
he's
because he's fucking
probably
staying
gonna die.
until they win. Right around then, the litter bearers show up as they're supposed to take him back to the hospital ship. Matt Urban climbs on the litter and then, rather than go back to the hospital ship, has them escort him around the battlefield, issuing orders to him. And this goes on until they repel.
Just imagine that. You've got this guy, you know, with some medic guys. They were supposed to take him out, although he ordered them, hey, run me around the battlefield so I can still continue to give orders and run this shit, even though there's a hunk of my foot missing, my heel missing.
All that wave of Germans, and eventually the battalion surgeon, the head medic for the entire battalion, also an officer that outranks Captain Urban, has to go to Urban and order him to go to the aid station. So they get
Literally,
back to the beach at a field
you have to go back there, buddy. This is not an option.
hospital. 2 surgeons start working on him. They don't have any anesthesia. All he has is a local anesthetic. He is wide awake as 2 surgeons are cutting out necrotic tissue from what used to be his leg. The surgeons laugh. He's done his job as a morale officer. He's keeping morale high. Eventually, he asks the surgeons, okay, how much longer is this going to take so I can get back to my men? And the surgeons are like,
what?
Dude, you might lose your entire leg. You're done here. You're not going back to the front.
You serious?
You serious?
From here, Matt Urban gets sent back to a hospital in England. From here, he's in the hospital, he's recovering. It's looking like he's going to get to keep his leg, but it's still pretty jacked up. And then after a couple of weeks, more reports start coming in that the fighting in Normandy is intense and his unit is taking a lot of casualties. About a week after that, some of those casualties start making it to the same hospital that Matt Urban's at. And on one hand, he's happy to see his guys, but on the other hand, he's getting reports of all the guys that also didn't make it, and maybe they would have if he was there with them. And he decides that he needs to go back. So he
needs
goes,
to, now he's got to make
command,
sure he has to be there every time.
And they're like, no. Absolutely not. If that leg gets infected, you're going to lose it, and it's looking like you're going to keep it now. You're not going back into combat. But Matt Urban isn't taking no for an answer. His boys need him. He's got to figure out a way to get back to Normandy across the English Channel. So he's sitting outside this hospital on a park bench, and then he sees his way of getting back to Normandy. There's a platoon of 40 guys lined up
even
in
better.
formation. The formation
I thought he was going to row himself across the English
horrible.
Channel.
It's a giant pile of shit bags, and Matt Urban goes and talks to the officer leading them, and he's like, what is this? Who are these guys? Urban then finds out that this platoon of men is unaffectionately nicknamed the Dirty 40, and basically it's 40 shitbags that had all tried to dodge the draft or had faked an injury, basically trying to do anything they could to not get shipped off to combat, and now they've essentially just been thrown at this hospital to do grunt work and labor because nobody trusts them to actually do anything important. Basically, nobody wants to deal with them. The officer in charge is just babysitting them, and they're a giant pain in the ass. So Matt Urban offers to
best
take
group
over.
ever.
He says that he'll start training them. He's got a lot of combat experience. He's a good officer. He's a leader. Let me take it over. I just need something constructive to do. I'm going nuts sitting in my hospital bed all day. The officer is like, yeah, okay,
yes, please.
Sure, take.
You want to take my idiots who I can't trust and do anything but run a hospital? Fuck yes, please.
I don't want him.
I don't want him ever again.
For the next couple of weeks, Matt Urban whips these guys into shape the best that he can, and he's not exactly working with the cream of the crop, but he gets them to the point where they're kind of looking like they're soldiers and convinces the chain of command that this platoon is ready to go see combat in Normandy. At which point Urban is like, look, I know I can't be their officer.
They're probably not ready, but
I would at least like to travel to Normandy with them and hand them off to the officer that's taking over. And the chain of command lets him do it, so Matt Urban,
because they didn't realize what he was doing,
board a ship, cross the English Channel, make it over to Normandy. He lands on Utah Beach again a second time. He hands off the Dirty 40 to the officer that's expecting them, at which point he's supposed to go get back on the ship and go back to the hospital.
But he doesn't do that.
He wanders over to a field medical station where he finds the newest, greenest ambulance driver he can find and orders him to drive him to the front lines where his battalion is. He gets dropped off at the front lines in an active battle. Urban doesn't realize this at the time, but he has just been dropped off right in the middle of Operation Cobra, which happened after Normandy. Basically, the Allied strategy was to back up a little bit and then carpet bomb the ever-living shit out of the Germans. The Germans in this sector that his men are fighting, once they backed up to allow for the carpet bombing, ran up and occupied the fortified positions that they had just had and weathered the storm of the bombing. And now they're using those fortified positions against them. Matt comes hobbling up in a cane, gets into a depression with some men. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on. The Germans are shooting at them, and he's like, who's in charge? Nobody knows who's in charge. Apparently, the company commander has been killed. At this point, Matt Urban, with his cane,
he's
is
the
like,
most
I guess I'm
senior
in charge.
member now.
Starts issuing orders to his men to spread out so they don't get taken out by a single mortar, and starts getting everything going. As he kind of gets his footing and evaluates what's going on, they had 3 tanks that were supporting this company. 2 of them have been knocked out, and the other one is kind of sitting in a no man's land. It's operable, but nobody's manning it right now.
Nobody wants to go touch
it. Get it up and running and start using it for suppressing fire on these German machine gun nests. Matt Urban sends 2 guys out to the tank to man it. Both of them wind up getting mowed down, at which point Matt Urban is like, I guess
fine, my turn.
He then proceeds to hobble run through Germany.
At that point, after watching those 2 guys he sent out get killed, he's like, well, I'm not sending out more guys for them to kill. If they're going to kill anyone, it's going to be me.
German machine gun fire, makes it to the tank, climbs on top of it to the 50 caliber machine gun, and starts laying down suppressing fire, giving enough cover for a tank commander to run up and get inside the tank. The tank then starts moving towards the Germans, providing cover and suppressing fire as the entire battalion starts moving with it. And they crush the Germans. Matt Urban showed up injured to a unit that was in shambles and turned the entire tide of the battle in a matter of minutes. One of the platoon sergeants...
And don't forget, not only did he show up in shambles with a cane and being injured or recovering from injuries, he wasn't even supposed to be there. And, you know, that area was just getting carpet bombed. So it was, you know, the literal middle of a battle.
That was there that day that had been a replacement troop that had come in after Matt Urban had already been shipped to the hospital, had this to say. Quote, "One of the craziest officers suddenly appeared before us, yelling like a madman and waving a gun in his hand. He was probably a replacement, never in combat before. He got us
never
on our
in
feet,
combat
though,
before,
and gave us
right?
our confidence back and saved our lives." Another platoon
Didn't even
sergeant
realize.
had this to say. Quote, "Urban moved forward, and damned if the U.S. Army didn't move forward also. He bellied up to the tank and amid heavy gunfire, scrambled aboard and manned the machine gun. The driver took heart with Urban aboard. The tank roared forward, and Urban tore the hillside apart with that gun." Because of this, his battalion commander writes him up for the Medal of Honor and ships off the paperwork. Urban stays with his men as they continue advancing further into enemy territory. About a week later, on August 2nd, he takes shrapnel to his chest and is told that he
Another
needs to go
Purple
back
Heart.
to the hospital. He promptly refuses and stays in the fight anyways. 4 days after that, on August 6th, his battalion commander is wounded in combat and he's shipped off. And now Urban is the commander of the battalion.
Nice. Back when getting promoted was easy, just be in the right place at the right time.
From here, Urban leads the 2nd Battalion of the 60th Infantry Regiment into combat, and they are taking town after town after town. And again, on August 15th, he's wounded and refuses to get medevaced. And this is where his nickname of the Ghost goes from a running joke that started back in Sicily to an actual badass nickname, because he is a legend among his men. This dude got shot by a tank, survived, got sent to a hospital in England, escaped the hospital, made it back to the front lines, saved their ass in the middle of battle, and has been injured 2 more times and refused medevac. He's unkillable. He might actually be dead, and he is a ghost leading them into combat.
Like Baba Yaga.
Under Matt Urban's leadership, the 2nd Battalion of the 60th Infantry Regiment kind of becomes known as the problem solvers for the 9th Infantry Division. Whatever the toughest mission is, that's who they're giving it to.
Imagine, that's your nickname in a war. You're the problem solvers. Literally, you're going to be sent into anywhere there's a problem so you can solve it
September 2nd,
and
1944,
win.
that tough assignment was to take out Philippville, where the Germans had concentrated all their defenses. If they can take out Philippville and clear out the Germans, they'll have a direct shot at the Meuse River. Now, the problem is that the 9th Infantry Division is not in control of that sector, so the 9th Infantry Division loans out the 2nd Battalion of the 60th Infantry Regiment to a different division to have them go clear out Philippville. So when Matt Urban and his battalion show up, they are told by this new chain of command to basically run into the town, into enemy gunfire, and just take it over. No artillery support, no air support, no backup, nothing.
Good day, sir.
That sounds like an awful idea.
I'm not quite 100% sure, but I'm fairly confident.
Sounds like a good way to get a bunch of guys killed.
Now, it's not a question of is America going to win? It's a question of how soon is America going to win? And a lot of high-ranking officers want to be the first guy into Germany. They want to be the first person to do this, the first person to do that. Basically.
That, and it's also at this point, America wanted to make sure they were in Germany to take the Nazi capital before the Soviet Union.
They want to overachieve.
They did not want to let the Soviets get them.
And in doing so, a lot of the time, they put their men on the ground at an increased risk so they can make themselves look good, and I think that's what's going on here. Regardless, Matt Urban attempts to follow orders. He approaches the town, and as they approach, they get hit with a humongous artillery barrage from the Germans. Matt Urban orders his men to pull back out of artillery range, and then radios back to them like, hey, we're not going to be able to do this without artillery support or air support or something. It's not possible. We're going to get decimated before we even make it into the town. The colonel in charge of this operation then tells Matt Urban, that's not
I don't care, you do it.
Just push into the town. Again, I'm assuming because the artillery hasn't caught up and they're outrunning supply lines and they're outrunning
they're moving fast at this
because
point.
They're pushing further in as fast as possible, trying to make the officers look good. Matt Urban then tells them, we'll wait for the artillery support. I'm not going to go in there and get all my men killed for no reason. And the colonel then threatens to have him court-martialed and calls him a coward.
Bad idea.
To which Matt Urban replies, do whatever you got to do. I'm not sending my guys in there to die. So what the colonel does is he calls up all the new reinforcement troops from the rear that just got here from America that have not seen combat and orders them to march past Matt Urban's unit and straight into the town. And to everybody's surprise, not only do they
all get killed,
the town, they don't even make it to the town because they get lit up by German artillery. They take so many casualties,
obviously.
in fact, that night, the general in charge of that colonel who's in charge of Matt Urban decides to have a meeting with the two of them and a bunch of other officers to come up with a plan on how they're going to take this town.
Really?
Explains to the general he thinks that they should push in right now with every...
Because he's a
thing
dumbass.
that they have, and Matt Urban says, we're going to get absolutely destroyed by German artillery. We need you to get our...
At that point, if I were Matt, I would have told the colonel, all right, then you're going to be the first guy in. Okay? I will follow you in. Otherwise, none of these men are following me in.
artillery up here to silence the German artillery, and then I will take my regiment in there and we will clear out the town. It's what we do. The general immediately sides with Matt Urban, says he's going to get artillery moved in there first thing in the morning, at which point the colonel throws a bitch fit, telling the general that this man is a coward and he should be court-martialed and he doesn't know what he's talking about. The general then snaps at the colonel. I'm paraphrasing, but roughly what he says is, if he had followed your orders yesterday, him and all of his men would be dead. That man is Matt Urban. I specifically requested him and his unit from the 9th Infantry Division come help us with this because they're one of the best units in the entire fucking war. That man signed himself out of the hospital and saved his unit at St. Lo and was instrumental in spearheading the entire breakout. He then turns back to Urban, who's shocked that this general even knows him by name, and says, you're gonna have whatever you need first thing in the morning. Done.
I bet somebody feels pretty stupid right now.
Yeah, the colonel's probably just like, okay, I gotcha.
Matt Urban leaves the meeting like, all right,
so
I got
grumpy.
what we need. Let's go figure out what we're up against. So he grabs 2 NCOs. This is like 11 o'clock at night on September 2nd, and they sneak up to the enemy position. They kill several guards with garrote wire to figure out what the enemy has for defenses. After they take out the guards, they get eyes on the enemy position. It looks like there's an entire German regiment there. They've got tanks. They've got machine gun nests. It's going to be a fight. From here, they make it back to their lines. Matt Urban sets up the battle plan, gets a couple of hours of sleep, wakes up at 4 a.m. on September 3rd, and gets all of his men ready and into position, ready to launch this attack. And they wait until 5 a.m. when the humongous artillery barrage from the Americans hits to silence the German artillery. They storm the town. It's going as good as it can. Obviously, they're taking casualties, running into German machine gun fire, but it's going as well as you could possibly expect. As they advance further into this town, they get pinned down by German machine gun fire, at which point Matt Urban decides he's going to do Matt Urban things and rushes the German machine gun nest, throws a grenade into it,
a sane
blows it
individual.
up, runs to the next one, hucks a second
Do it
grenade
again.
into it, and then feels like he got hit in the neck by a fucking sledgehammer and drops to the ground. He hears the grenade go off and the gun go silent, and then he wakes up with medics sitting over him, and it's not just any medic, it's the battalion surgeon. He starts to come to a little bit more. He's wet, covered in a ton of his own blood, and he can't move, not because he's physically unable to, but because one of his soldiers has both of his thumbs pressed into the bullet hole in his neck. Bleeding as the surgeon is trying to work on him.
That's taking a Kentucky Ballistics page, a page from his book, when he got his neck injury and he got, stuck his thumb in it. Like he said, like his doctor said, if he hadn't stuck his thumb in there, he probably would have died.
So Matt Urban's laying there.
So Matt Urban's probably at the same boat.
The priest from the battalion winds up making it there, and Matt Urban remembers the priest asking the doctor, is he going to make it? And the doctor looks over to the priest.
Said no.
And just shakes his head no. Matt Urban hears this. He thinks he's going to die. All of the men around hear this. They think that their fearless leader, the unkillable Ghost, has just been killed. And the last time they see him, he's getting read his last rites on the battlefield by that priest before being loaded up onto the hood of a Jeep and driven to the rear.
And that's when everybody was like, well, shit, are we lost now? Did we just lose the one guy who was going to take us all the way to Berlin? No. You didn't lose it.
Matt Urban survives and actually makes it to the aid station somehow, and once he gets there, whether he realizes it or not, he is triaged. Meaning he is sorted into a category of how severe his wounds are, which is going to determine how quick he gets treatment. There's basically 4 categories. There's urgent, which means this guy can survive, but we need to get him to surgery right now. He's on the next ambulance out of here to an operating room or to a hospital. Then there's delayed, which means this guy's critically wounded. He needs surgery. He needs better care that we can't give him here, but he's stable for the moment. If somebody else needs that ambulance more, take it. Then there's minimal, which is like walking wounded. This guy's messed up. He needs care. He can't go back into battle.
And then there's the one you really don't want.
He's stable. He's fine to hang out here for a while. And then there's the 4th category that Matt Urban gets sorted into, which is expectant, which means his wounds are so bad that he's going to die. There's nothing anyone can do for him. So we're just not going to waste space on the transport, and we're going to try.
Not going to waste space or resources. Is the point.
Help people that have a chance at surviving. So he is basically shoved into the corner, receives the minimum amount of care, basically just trying to comfort him until he dies. But he doesn't die. He lays there for 2 days with a hole in his neck, And eventually it gets to the point where he gets so thirsty, he's getting all his fluids from IVs, but that doesn't do much to actually quench your thirst in your throat, where he starts writing on a piece of paper asking the nurses for water. After asking multiple times, they eventually come up with like a cup of water and a teaspoon and pour a teaspoon of water into his throat, which sends him into a coughing fit for what seems like forever, and it's extremely painful. All right, no more of that. He then eventually winds up...
Hey, he stole a Hot Ones clip. Hot Ones is very protective of their clips, so I'm betting that's all he could use. Yeah, Hot Ones doesn't let anybody react to any of their content. It's crazy. I tried doing it once because I found one that I thought was really good, and then after getting done recording for the day, or for that part of the day, I all of a sudden had to scrap that whole video after uploading and start again for that day. It was annoying.
Getting transported to a hospital back in England.
And it's like, yeah, I get it. Protect your own videos, copyrights and everything, but if honestly people are just watching it, reacting to it, giving their own commentary, maybe something that gets said, you give your own extra thoughts on. Let's say someone doesn't know about your channel and they discover it through a guy they watch reacting. Now they know about your channel, you have a new subscriber, and maybe a guy who's going to go binge every one of your videos.
Again, once he gets there, he's evaluated by the doctor. That's kind of his new primary care guy, and you know, he's writing on paper to communicate because his vocal cords are completely shot, and he basically tells the doctor that he can't drink, but he's super thirsty. He tells the doctor they tried giving him a little bit of water with a teaspoon, sends him into a coughing fit. It's extremely painful. It just is a shitty situation. The doctor looks over to the nurse and is like, go in my office, third drawer down in my desk, there's a bottle of bourbon and a shot glass.
Oh, that'll work.
He then proceeds to pour Matt Urban a shot and tells him to drink it in one gulp. Matt Urban's like, okay, you're the doctor.
You're the doctor.
Expecting this to hurt extremely bad, takes a shot, goes right down like it was nothing. Matt Urban's shocked. The doctor then explains to him, yeah, trickling water down your throat one little teaspoon at a time would make anybody cough, neck wound or not. Your vocal cords are shot. You might never talk again, but you can at least eat and swallow.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great.
Another.
From here, he's up and walking within a couple of days, and then within a week, he's requesting to go back to combat by writing it down.
Of course he is.
Saying that he can still lead his troops by writing the commands. To which
I can lead them. I will write to each and every one of them.
She is told, absolutely fucking not. So he waits for a couple of days and then requests 5 days of leave to go up to Scotland to, you know, go sightseeing or whatever for his personal morale. And they give it to him.
Idiots.
He proceeds to snag a ride on a cargo plane across the English Channel and then hitchhike all the way into Germany where his men are. He gets to where his troops are at and he steps out of the Jeep, and the first thing anybody says as they're all standing there with their jaws
looking
on the
at
floor
it like,
is,
holy shit,
he really is a ghost.
What the hell are you? No! No! No!
From here, it's a party. All the boys are pumped. They're super excited that their leader actually survived. He really is the unkillable ghost that they all thought he was. From here, he hangs out with the boys for a couple of days, and they're getting ready to mobilize again to go back into Germany and finish this war. And Matt Urban is straight up ready to go with them. He's ready to write orders down on a sheet of paper and get back into combat. The chain of command, on the other hand, is absolutely
doesn't like that idea. They don't think that'll work out well.
And then he gets shipped back home to America. And at it might appear like,
well, they sent him back to America because he was too close to the action. He kept going back to it. They had to get him further away,
escaping from the
making it harder.
Making it all the way to Germany was a waste of his time, but it wasn't. It was actually extremely important. Because you got to remember, Matt Urban's the morale officer. He is in charge of making sure the men are motivated to fight. And Matt Urban is
and that worked. Him showing up after basically everybody watched him be taken away, like, that dude is dead. That dude is gone. We've just lost our fearless leader. To see him step out of the Jeep, that must have been like a, oh my God, he's alive? Like, oh shit.
Role's morale officer, because he's done incredible things for their morale, because there's nothing that could be more devastating to a combat unit than
losing your leader.
Their star guy, their best player, the man that's fearless, that they follow into battle, that they're trusting to get them back alive. To see him die in combat on the field is devastating, because every single dude is now thinking, Matt Urban was better than me. I was going to follow that guy anywhere, and if they killed him, what chance do I have?
Yeah,
to have
pretty
that
much.
on your mind for the next 2 weeks, and then to have a Jeep pull up and to see that guy step out, literally coming back from the fucking dead, does unspeakable things to your motivation and your outlook on how this is going to go.
And then the Medal of Honor.
Matt Urban makes it back to England, and he is promptly court-martialed because apparently while he was gone for 14 days on 5 days of leave, they had scheduled his award ceremony for his Silver Star, and guess who didn't show up? Matt Urban. The military tribunal takes one look at Matt Urban's service record and what happened and goes, yeah, he's not getting in trouble at all. Case dismissed. Also, you're promoted to lieutenant colonel. From
You're
here,
promoted.
Matt goes back home to America, winds up retiring shortly afterward, goes back home to Buffalo, winds up moving to Holland, Michigan. Somewhere along the way,
hey, that's
he
right near
regained
me.
his voice, although it is pretty hoarse for the rest of his life. He then spent the rest of his life being
But what about that girl he met back in
a
England?
youth athletic coach working with kids. He wound up being a coach to a boxer known as Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali, at one point. And that's
Gotcha.
it. He just lived out the rest of his life as a normal guy after being one of the biggest badasses on the entire planet. And then in the late 1970s, he caught up with some of his friends from the military, and they asked if he ever got that Medal of Honor that he was recommended for. And he said no. Doesn't really know what happened to it, didn't really care, wasn't doing it for the medals anyways.
Yeah.
Some of his friends then wrote into the government.
They were like, wait a minute. He needs his Medal of Honor. He deserves that fucking thing.
To correct this oversight.
This is
and
a
they
wrong.
dug into it, but the problem is that a couple years prior in 1973, there
Yeah,
was
I
a
remember
major
this
fire
one.
at the National Archives, and most of the documentation from World War II had been destroyed. And almost all of it from the 9th Infantry Division was destroyed. All of it except for literally one box of documents was recovered. And in
that one box had
was
enough
the
info.
recommendation from his now deceased battalion commander.
Oh, wow.
Recommending him for the...
So the battalion commander, they didn't even have, word of mouth to give anything anymore.
This, combined with testimony from some of the surviving members of his unit, would lead to him ultimately getting the Medal of Honor in 1980. And with that, he is then put into contention for the title of the most decorated soldier of World War II, comparable only to Audie Murphy.
Audie Murphy.
And that is the story of Matt Urban, one of the greatest infantry officers in American history. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch, maybe drink some Echelon. Links for both of those are over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
And what about your outro?
This guy is probably one of the most horrifically underrated and underpublicized people I've ever covered.
Oh, most definitely. The stories this dude went through was crazy. It was absolutely nuts. This dude deserves all the praise, all the glory that he was given, and the title of The Ghost is extremely fitting. I very much enjoyed that story. If you did too, hit the like button, get subscribed, go subscribe to The Fat Electrician if you didn't already. And yeah, get on out of here. Come back later. We got the Alan Richson situation is crazy, and as a fan of Reacher, I fear that that one may hurt a little bit. So come back for that. I'll see you later today. Have a good old one.